First of all, I just want to say thank you for choosing Athens Pulmonary to be your DME supplier. We really appreciate the opportunity to serve you and really look forward to doing anything that we can to help you use your CPAP, get used to your CPAP, deal with any problems and troubleshooting that may arise along the way. So we really look forward to doing all that we can to help you use your CPAP successfully and become a compliant patient with therapy. To begin with, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jim Corley. I work in the CPAP DME department here at Athens Pulmonary. I do most of the CPAP setups, and so I want to just take a couple of minutes to kind of go through just the basic information involved with a CPAP setup. So to begin with, I just want to give a little bit of information about sleep apnea itself. If you are watching this video, most likely you've had a sleep study, whether it was done at home or in a sleep lab, and it was determined that you do have some degree of sleep apnea, and you're now pursuing CPAP therapy as the mode of treatment. So essentially with sleep apnea, what's happening to you at night is your airway is collapsing. So your airway is closing up at night. That begins to restrict airflow, so your oxygen levels will then start to go down, and then that's going to wake you from your sleep. And so depending on how severe that is, it could be happening anywhere from 5 to 15 times per hour on average is considered mild sleep apnea. 16 to 30 times per hour is considered moderate sleep apnea, and then anything more than 30 times per hour on average is considered severe sleep apnea. So you likely fall within one of those ranges. The good thing is that CPAP is very effective at fixing sleep apnea. The way your CPAP machine is going to work is it's called an auto-adjusting CPAP. So most of the time these machines are not set to any specific pressure. It's going to be set with a minimum pressure and a maximum pressure. The machine will actually monitor your breathing throughout the night, so it can tell whenever your airway is beginning to narrow, like it does with sleep apnea. And whenever the machine detects that that's occurring, the machine will actually make adjustments to those pressure settings on its own to make sure that it's keeping that airway open and eliminating those interruptions in your breathing throughout the night. So the machine will do all those adjustments on its own. Fortunately, it's going to start at a nice low pressure setting, and then once you're asleep, that's when it begins to increase and make those adjustments. Generally speaking, you don't notice that once you're sleeping. It makes those adjustments as needed throughout the rest of the night. If you do find that you're having trouble tolerating that pressure, don't hesitate to let us know. We can actually make a lot of adjustments to those pressure settings just from the computer here without even needing the machine in the office. It has a remote connection so that we can make changes to pressure settings, humidity settings, things like that. So again, if you're having any issues with pressure or humidity or anything with using your machine, let us know, because we can make a lot of adjustments remotely and kind of talk through those issues and figure out what might work better. One of the aspects of your machine is that it has a wireless transmitter built into it. That means that it's going to connect every day, transmit data back to us to let us know how well the machine's working, the times you're using it, how much pressure it's using, how many apneas you're still having, if the mask is leaking. So those reports are generated every day and sent back to us automatically. There's nothing that you need to do to set that up. It works like a cell phone, so it doesn't connect through home Wi-Fi or anything like that. So we're going to automatically get those reports. And if you're interested in being able to view that data, your CPAP machine, inside of the bag, there's an insert, a little display card in there that can walk you through the steps for downloading an app from ResMed called MyAir. If you choose to register for that app and download that on your phone, then you'll actually get those same daily reports that we do, just to fill you in on how well everything is working, potentially figure out if there's any problems with mask leaking or apneas or things like that. So those daily reports will come to you through that app as well if you choose to sign up for that. And I would encourage you to do that. It's a very helpful tool, gives you a lot of good information just so that you can get that feedback to know how well your therapy is working. So all right, we're going to take a couple minutes here and just kind of go through unpacking everything, show you everything that's inside of here, how everything hooks together, how to operate the humidifier, the tubing connections, the power, all the various settings that you have options with. We're going to go through all of that, and we're going to just take it a step at a time. So let's start with what's in the bag. All right. So right on top, you've got a little insert. I mentioned earlier that there is an app that you can download so that you can view the data from your machine, and that's what this little insert will kind of walk you through. So if you are interested in being able to view the data from your machine, this little insert will help you to follow those steps and do that. So right in the bottom part here, the pouch, we've got, of course, the power cords. We've got a power brick. along with an extension cord that plugs into the wall. We got the machine itself, water chamber, and then the tubing that goes with the machine. So we're going to go step by step and just kind of show you how to hook each of these up together, and then what they do and how to adjust any settings that might be associated with any of these. So let's go to how to hook it up with power. Alright, so power supply first. You got the brick here. Of course, you got to plug the end that goes to the wall right into the brick, and then this end is going to go in the back of the machine. And it hooks right in here, and if you notice, there is a little bit of curvature here to the plug, so that side does have to fit on the right side over here as you're plugging it in. And now we have power. Alright, next step is going to be inserting the water chamber. So this is the water chamber. This does have a flip open lid here. You pull out on this little latch, and that allows it to pop open, which is how you fill it. When you're filling this, of course, you want to use distilled water, which you can buy at the grocery store. On the front here, you'll see the gauge for the max fill line. So whenever you are filling this at night, make sure you don't go above that line. Otherwise, you're going to get water coming through the tubing, and eventually it splashes on your face. So don't go over that line. Once you've got your water in, this closes back, and then you're going to insert that into the side of the machine here with the opening. Just line it up and push it all the way in. When you want to take that back out, you notice the little white tab right here. You just have to push down on that. It moves down just a little bit so it will release, and you can slide it back out of there. Alright, so the next thing we're going to hook up is the tubing. Now this tubing, you see the ends are different. One end has a special adapter with a little plug attached to it. Now what that's for, this tubing is actually heated tubing, specifically designed to make sure that it's going to stay warm enough inside of the tubing to prevent condensation. Anytime you're using a humidifier with a CPAP machine, one problem that you can run into is the humidifier is heating up the water and the air to produce that moisture to prevent dryness. But once that air passes into the tubing, if it ends up cooling down too much once it's inside of there, then you're going to end up with condensation. So if you ever notice moisture inside the tubing, that's going to be why. The heated tubing is specifically designed to prevent that. So that's why it does have this special adapter. So that plugs into the machine to get power from the machine and allow it to heat and maintain warmth inside of the tubing. So when you're plugging that in, you just have to line that little plug up with the opening on the top right here. So you just line that up and push it all the way in. So now I'm going to show you how to hook up your mask to the tubing. So these are two of the most popular mask styles that we use. This is called an AirFit N20, which is a nasal mask. This is called an AirFit F30, which is a full face mask. What type mask you're using would have already been determined by one of us here. Based on whether or not you breathe through your nose or your mouth, what kind of pressures you're likely to be dealing with. And so we would have already figured that out, but I just want to kind of show you the basics. Most of the masks connect in a pretty similar manner to these two. So this full face mask in particular has a short little 90-degree elbow piece here, and it's very simple. This does come off and on. You got the sides here, you can just pinch that and that just pops off and on quite easily. The tubing just slips right over the end here. With this particular mask, what most people opt to do is just leave this connected inside the tubing and just pop this off and on the front of the mask. So these elbow pieces are particular to the mask that they come with. So most of these are not interchangeable. Every now and then some are, but most of the time these are not interchangeable. So if you do switch from one mask to another, you just always have to remember to pull that elbow piece out. And the end of the tubing here, where it's just kind of flexible, I don't know if that's rubber or what that is, but it's flexible. And the sizing here is standardized, so this will fit any CPAP mask. And so with our N20, the nasal mask over here, you notice the little connection here is a little bit longer, like an extra foot of tubing, but that just slips in all the same. And then on this particular mask, you do have the sides here you can pinch and squeeze and pull that off, and that just snaps right back in the front there as well. So all masks will fit this tubing because the connection is standardized, but you just, again, have to just make sure that the elbow is specific to the mask you're using. So once your CPAP machine is all hooked up and you've got your mask on and ready to go, it's very easy to turn this on. The power button is right on the top here to turn on the pressure and also turn it off. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. So the display right here in the middle, this is going to show you how strong the pressure currently is. So this is the current pressure the machine is delivering. It's a pressure of 5. That may not mean anything to you, and that's fine, but 5 is the minimum pressure on the CPAP machine, and then the highest the CPAP machine can go is 20. So your machine would have been set based on what your physician prescribed. Most of the time it's 5 to 15, sometimes 5 to 20. The physicians make that determination, typically just based on the severity of your sleep apnea and kind of their expectations with what pressure you might need. So that's just a starting point, but when you cut the pressure on, it's going to start at 5 and basically just going to sit right there at 5 until you go to sleep, because your machine is looking for apneas, which are not going to happen until you've gone to sleep. And then once you're sleeping, that pressure is going to be automatically adjusting throughout the night, so it's going to deliver whatever you need in order to control the sleep apnea. So the pressure will always start at 5, and then once you're asleep, it's going to automatically adjust. Let's say you wake up in the middle of the night and the pressure just feels uncomfortably strong. You feel like you're smothering trying to breathe out against that pressure because it's a lot higher than when you first started out. The easiest way to deal with that is to just turn it off, which is the button on top. So I'm going to hit that, cuts the pressure off. A couple seconds later, just push it again to turn it right back on. And you see now our therapy started back over. It's going to start again at a pressure of 5, and that will give you the ability to go back to sleep at a nice low pressure again, and then once you're back asleep, the machine will auto-adjust again to control the sleep apnea. So if you do wake up in the middle of the night and the pressure is uncomfortably strong, that's the easiest way to deal with it. As you see, the screen goes dark pretty quickly, and that's just so that it's not lighting up the room while you're asleep. That's why I keep having to touch this touch screen to turn it back on. Your actual CPAP machine settings will show up right here. So this one is set from 5 is the minimum, 15 is the max. So that's the range that it's going to work within. So that will show you your settings. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it back off with the button on top here. So once you've turned the pressure off on your machine, this is the display screen that you will see. This is called the sleep view. This just provides a little bit of basic feedback on your CPAP machine. So right here, by default, it's going to show to begin with the usage time. So here you see we don't have a whole lot of usage, 0 minutes so far, but whatever amount you've used it that particular day is going to show up right here. And then you have the mask icon right next to it. I'll tap that, and this is going to give you some feedback about the seal that your mask had while you were wearing your machine that night. So if you did have a lot of leaking, it would let you know that here, or if you had an overall good seal, it would let you know that as well. In the top left, you see the home icon there, and so I'm going to tap that to get us back to, this is the main menu, so we're back to our main screen again. And you have two main options here. You have the sleep view, which if I tap that, that's the one we just looked at. I go back, and then the other option we have over here is called My Options. So I'm going to open this one up. So there's a few settings here that could be changed. Right on top, you've got ramp time, so that's set to auto. So a ramp is just a way to make sure that your machine is going to start at a nice low pressure and stay there until you're sleeping. So the ramp on auto, typically we just leave it there. You don't have to really mess with that setting. When you're on an auto-adjusting CPAP machine, the ramp doesn't really do a whole lot. So we just leave that set on auto, and it'll allow the machine to then begin therapy and adjust pressures whenever it needs to, based on when you're asleep. The other two auto settings here, you have climate control and then tube temperature. So these settings are related to the humidity controls, and so by default it's going to be set on auto, and typically that's where we do always start out the machine, is on auto setting, and that means the machine is going to regulate how much humidity it's going to produce based on the room conditions. So it's constantly monitoring the humidity in the room, and it will make adjustments to how much moisture it's going to provide you based on how dry or humid the air is. So we do always try auto first, and if that ends up being comfortable for you, then you don't have to worry about humidity settings. You just let the machine control that. However, if for any reason the humidity settings are not comfortable, you do have the option to go into climate control here. So if I tap that, you see I have the option to switch to manual. If you do switch to manual, that's going to allow you a lot more direct control over how much humidity the machine produces, and as well as what temperature setting you want to maintain inside of your tubing. I would recommend that if you are having problems with humidity, call us. The easiest way is to just talk with us about what's going on. We can kind of figure out what the problems are, and we can make some recommendations on how to adjust your humidity to best address that. But just know that you do have these options to switch to manual and actually adjust humidity on your own if the auto settings are not working well for you. And then one last setting I do want to show you here is if you scroll down a bit, you have a mask setting. So right now this one is set on nasal. So if you're using our N20 mask that we showed you earlier, that's a nasal mask, that would be the correct setting. But if you open this up, there are three different types. You have nasal, you have full face, which would be a mask that would seal at the nose and the mouth. And then you also have pillows, which is a type of nasal mask, but it has a little bit different interface than your typical nasal cushion that goes all the way around the nose. So we can talk more about different mask types further down the road, but just know that your machine will already be programmed based on the type of mask that you're using. And if that changes at some point down the road, we would just adjust this. And this helps the machine be as accurate as possible when it measures air leaking. And that's pretty much it for the options on the menu screen. So one last thing to show you on your machine is the filter. So that is on the back of the machine. If I spin this around. So this little door right here opens up, and there is a disposable filter right down inside of there. This is similar to an air filter that you would have in your house. So this is a disposable filter. The recommendation is that you just check this monthly. If it looks fine, you can just leave it on there. But when you do start to see some accumulation on it, or it starts to look dirty or discolored, then that's when you would just want to throw it away. These are not meant to be washed. They'll kind of disintegrate and come apart if you get them wet. So don't wash these, just throw them away once it's at a point where you need to change it. Your machine will come with 2 additional in the bag, and this is something insurance does allow you to replace monthly. You can order 2 extra of these every month if you want to. You probably won't need that many, but that just means anytime you need filters, you should be eligible to get them and replace them. So anytime you need these, just let us know. But all it is, you just take the new filter and just lay it back down in the case here and close the door back. And that's all there is to it. Well, hopefully this brief little walkthrough has been informative and helpful, and at least gets you to the point where you feel comfortable going ahead and starting your CPAP therapy. Again, we really appreciate you choosing Athens Pulmonary, and we're definitely here for you to help with any problems, any questions you may have along the way. Our contact information is in the folder that you would have received when you picked up your machine, so again, feel free to reach out to us anytime by phone, by email. And we're very easy to schedule an appointment and get in to see, so if you do feel like you need to come in and be seen in the office, we're more than happy to do that as well. So just give us a call or email and we can easily get you scheduled. But hopefully things are going to go well for you. It takes a little bit of getting used to, so don't get frustrated if things don't go well after 1 or 2 nights. Stick with it. A little bit each day is probably the best way to approach it. So don't fight with it for 3 hours, get frustrated, throw it across the room, and don't touch it again for a week. The best thing to do, try a little bit each day. If you're having a hard time, just take it off and go to bed. Try again the next day. So a little bit each day is a much better way to kind of work through that initial challenge of getting used to it. Hopefully things will go well, and you won't need us, but if you do, please call us.